Welcome back to another Medtech Snapshot. We are joined once again with the CEO of Fastwave out of Minneapolis, Scott Nelson. So Scott, we're going to talk today about the sales funnel and the impact of that type of approach on fundraising for a startup. So I'm curious, why would a founder, a CEO, follow a sales funnel process as they look at funding for their organization?
Yeah, so I'd first start by answering that question under the framework that fundraising is very much like sales, right? And so even if you don't have a commercial background, thinking about it as a sales process is a really helpful kind of framework to start with. So I think it's important to start there. But to answer that question in a little bit more pragmatic fashion, in today's economic environment, and this is maybe not different than any sort of fundraising environment, but especially in today's economic environment, fundraising requires a lot more time, right? So if maybe previously you expected to raise your Series A or Series B in 3 months, it's probably going to take at least 6, maybe 9, maybe even 12 months, right? So, so it's going to take longer, and you're going to have to cast a much broader net, right? So when I say broader net, it's best to think about a top-down funnel. The top of your funnel is going to be, really, really wide, and you're going to cast, you're going to prospect and look for kind of investors across a wide variety of sort of categories, so to speak, and then from there you're going to slowly begin to kind of qualify certain investors that may or may not be a good fit for what you're building, and you sort of go down funnel in that process, and so that sort of approach, that funnel based approach, is a really, I think, a really helpful framework to think of when it comes to the entire fundraising process, from the very early stages to hopefully eventually closing your round.
Scott, I think that's great feedback because it's intentional, right? So you're going into the process of finding the right partner, knowing, as you said, you have to start wide up top and narrow that funnel down to the point of where it's 1, 2, who knows, maybe a handful of partners. But it's that intentionality of the process, right? So spot on.
Yeah. You raise a really good point around intentionality, and I think that's another really crucial point, is that this process takes a long time, and it typically, again, is going to look like a funnel, but you have to be very, very intentional about that. And ideally, at the top of the funnel, hopefully by some of the efforts that you're making in the earlier stages around brand building, right, and telling your story and your vision in the public domain, hopefully that allows for some more inbound leads, so to speak, from an investor standpoint at that top of the funnel. Some of those may or may not eventually kind of find themselves towards the middle and bottom of your fundraising funnel, so to speak. But ideally, that's the goal, and your messaging during each stage of that funnel is probably going to look a little bit different, right, as your fundraising process evolves.